Hi everyone, this is Sharon. Today I'm going to be working on my December design team project for Lydia at Raindrop, Lila, and we are going to be making one of these Christmas cards. I love to do Christmas cards for my December projects for Lydia because she always has such wonderful Christmas kits out there. So I've already batch made and assembly line kind of processed these, a whole bunch of them. And I thought for my last one, I'd turn on the camera and we can make one together today. So we're going to make this card and we're going to make a coordinating envelope to put it in. So for the card itself, I've got some digitals that I kind of pre-cut, and I'll just explain what I did with those. So for the base of the card, we've got this background image. And I will put links to all of her kits that I use. This comes from her Rose Red Evergreen Standard Patterns kit. It was a full size or a full page image, and I shrunk it down so I could fit 3 of these on a page. So this is my 8.5 by 11. I had 2 more down here that I cut off, and that's the base of my card. So you can see the background on the front and also the background on the back side. So I did print these double-sided to make it easier. I also printed these on cardstock just to give it, a little bit more sturdiness. So my first step is to cut this piece out, which I will do on my cutter. Okay, I've got my piece of paper cut, and you can of course make these any size you would like. Mine are approximately 4 inches wide by 5.5 tall. And I'm just going to ink around the edges a little bit to get my white cut marks covered up. Okay. So then our next layer, I'll kind of put this one off to the side so we can keep an eye on it. Our next layer is this piece right in here. And that is part of a page from her tall nativity set. It's called Nativity. And this was one, I think it folded like this. So this was a page. And I shrunk these down to 4 per page. And I think that will fit nicely on here. It gives me just a little bit of a border that you can see peek around the outside. Now, once I shrunk these down, this image got quite small. So I took another page from this same kit and enlarged this image on there. And this I'm going to glue on the top of my background there so that this image of the nativity scene is a little bit larger. So I'm just going to cut this one out with the scissors. Okay. And then we'll do a little bit of inking again. Okay. So now I'm just going to take my glue stick and put glue on the back of this and glue it onto there. You will see that using digital kits for Christmas cards really allows them to come together quite quickly. Oops, I got this on the wrong. Upside down. I want it this way. And I like the glue stick here instead of art glitter, which I use quite often because that allows me to kind of reposition this. And I finally got that, I think, where I want it. Now I'm just going to take this image and again, glue stick on the back and stick that on there. I thought I would place this so there's a little bit hanging over the bottom of the lace here and a little bit over the top. And I wanted to make sure that I covered my image underneath on this side, so I kind of lined it up along there. Okay, so we've got a pretty nice looking front. Now we want to add a little bit more embellishment to that. So what I did on this one is I've got this punched metallic paper. I'll just kind of show you what that is. I'm using this paper. It's kind of a silver metallic on one side and craft on the other. I bought this at a yard sale and it came in a big, huge roll. And I bought the whole roll before I even started doing paper crafting. I'm not even sure what it was used for, but I've been using this a lot in my journal making. So I don't like the bright silver. So what I usually do is take some alcohol inks and just add that to the silver side to give it this kind of bronzy aged look. And once I have that on there, then I can punch it however I want. I usually do use it as punched pieces. So for this one, I've used this rather vintage, I think, looking Anna Griffin punch. I think I got this off of eBay. I don't even know that they make it anymore. I don't know what the name of it is, but you can kind of see what it looks like, the pattern. And so I've got another piece here that I've already inked and punched, and these are about 2 inches long. So I'm just going to put that up here before I put this piece of velvet ribbon on there. For this, I will use my art glitter glue. Works better with all the little lacy pieces. And I love that the back side of this metallic paper is craft paper because it glues down really nicely. Okay, and I'm going to put this right about here. This does curl, it's a little bit wet yet, so usually what I do is take it and just rub it along the edge of my work surface and just kind of straighten it out again. If you've got the time, you can also flatten these. So when I was making my big batch, I put them under some heavy books and just let them flatten out overnight. Okay, I think that's pretty good for working with. So now I have this strip of 1/4 inch velvet ribbon that I want to put on there. And actually, before I do that, I should work on the back because otherwise it gets too lumpy for gluing. So this is what my back looks like. I took a piece of old German book page. So I've got one of these that I ripped off. And I've also printed on this kind of homemade, I think it's a locked up paper. I printed a sentiment on there for my greeting card. So I've got that, and I just ripped this into a piece that will fit on the back. So what you can do for this is I leave enough room to write a little message and our signature. And if I want to put a larger note in, I just add that as an extra in the envelope. You could also just put a plain piece of paper like this on the back and just write your notes there too if you would like. So let's work on this back side. So I'm going to glue this, and again, I think I'll just use my art glitter glue. It's quite a thin piece of paper, so I don't necessarily need glue everywhere to keep it down. I'm just going to go along the edges. And if it curls up along the edges, it just gives it that more kind of vintage look anyway. So I'm going to kind of center that, I think. The art glitter glue does not give you a lot of time to reposition things. Okay, now this, I'm not sure if the glue is going to come through. It's quite thin, so I'm going to go take a glue stick to the back side of this. Okay, and then I'm just going to put this on here. I'm going to leave a little bit of that printing showing on the top, the bottom, and along the side here. So I just kind of positioned it like that. So now we've got that back side done, and that makes it easier. Now we can work on our front. So for this velvet piece, I cut a piece to length, and I kind of like the idea of it sticking off the edges just a little bit here and here. So I cut it ever so slightly wider than my card. I've also got these vintage buttons I'm putting on here. I think that just adds a nice touch. So I'm going to stitch that on with needle and thread to my ribbon before I glue the ribbon down. You can glue it too. On some of these, I had my ribbon down before I thought about adding the button, and so I did glue those buttons down. But with them going through the mail, I kind of prefer to actually stitch it to my ribbon just to make sure it stays on. So I'm just going to just put a couple little stitches in there. It doesn't need a whole lot. I don't think it's not going to be tugged on like a piece of clothing. So I just made a cross to stitch that down, and then I will knot it on the back side. Okay, and now we just need to glue this down, and it does work better to glue the paper rather than the ribbon, so I'm just going to put my glue right across here where I know I want to be placing my ribbon. And I'm just going to smooth that out a little bit to make sure it doesn't seep through my ribbon, because that is not a good look. And then I'm just going to place that right there. Okay, I think we are done now. Didn't that come together nice and quickly? So we have a nice, beautiful card. Now, if you wanted to add a Merry Christmas stamp or some type of little, sometimes I put Noel on there, or any other word you might want to put on here, peace, any kind of stamp that you might have, you could do that. But I think it's kind of pretty as is. And there's the back. So next we will work on our envelope. This is the envelope we will be creating today. I think it's in a style that is the easiest possible envelope to make. I like to stitch mine on the sides, so I'll be doing that. But you basically fold up a rectangle, stitch down the sides, and voila. So I've got one of my cards in here. And this is going to be made from an image from Lydia's Botanical Christmas Standard Layout Kit. And this is actually a journal page. It's half of a double page spread, so I just took half of it. And I resized it so that it would fit my card and I'd have room to stitch down the sides. And it just so happened that the sizing of this fit well this way too, so that I could fold it and create a flap and it will fit perfectly for my card. So first step is to cut this out. I printed this on some 8.5 by 11 cardstock. It's kind of a cream or ivory colored cardstock. So I think to get this nice and square, I'm going to take it to my paper cutter. Okay, I've got that piece cut out, and I am just going to add a little bit of ink around the edges again. And I know I want to round these corners for my flap right here. So I'm just going to take my corner rounder and round those, and then finish my inking. Okay, and to make sure I have this sized correctly, I'm just going to grab one of my cards and just kind of lay that on the back side and flip this up. And I think something like that will be a good size. Okay, so this will be our front, this will be our back. And then I'm going to leave just a little bit of a gap here to get your hand in. So maybe like between 1/8 and 1/4 of an inch up from this edge, I will fold again. Okay, so this is our front. We've got a little bit of that script on the top. I love the evergreens. So now I'm going to take this, well, before I take it to my sewing machine, I want to create a little bit of a notch in the center so it's easier to pull the card out. So I'm just going to take my paper punch. I use this whale tail punch. It's got a nice kind of oval curve at the bottom. Okay, so now I will stitch down this side, and then I'll be back. Okay, I am back. I've got my envelope stitched on each side. And if we take the card that we made, that should fit in there nicely. And we are ready to seal it up once we have our little notes inside or our signatures. So what I'll probably do is just run some glue across here to seal that. And I also usually like to get like a seasonal sticker or something to put on here to seal the back as well. And then I will add some labels to the front, and they will be ready for mailing. So I hope you enjoyed that little craft with me today. As you can see, quick and easy. I hope it inspired you to start on your Christmas cards if that's something you do. And until next time, bye-bye.